The hospital discharge papers were still on the kitchen counter when he asked for a divorce. 3 days. Just 3 days after I lost our daughter at 15 weeks pregnant. 3 days after lying alone in that emergency room. Bleeding, broken, wondering where my husband was. He said traffic was bad. That was a lie. Hotel records proved it. He was with her, his assistant, the woman he had been seeing for 9 months. 9 months, which meant he was already cheating when we finally got pregnant after 2 years of failed IVF cycles. But that was not even the worst part. The worst part was the email I found on his laptop, the one where he told her he hoped I would lose the baby, hoped our daughter would die, so things could be cleaner, easier, so he could move on without complications. I am Rebecca Morrison. My husband is Grant Morrison, CEO, millionaire, respected businessman, and the man who wanted his own child dead. He thought I would take his settlement offer and disappear quietly. $2 million, a non-disclosure agreement, a clean break. He was wrong. What happened next in that courtroom shocked everyone, even me, even his own mother, especially his lawyers. This is the story of how I fought back, how I won, and how I made sure my daughter's death meant something. Stay with me, because what the judge decided changed everything. Not just for me, for every woman who ever trusted the wrong man, for every mother who lost a child, for every person who wondered if justice actually exists. I promise you, this story is worth your time. The hospital discharge papers were still on the kitchen counter when Grant asked for a divorce. Becca sat on the ivory leather sofa in their penthouse living room, the one Grant picked out 3 years ago. Everything in this place was his choice. The furniture, the art, the life they built. She wore her silk robe, the one from their honeymoon in Italy. 8 years ago, back when she thought forever meant something. Her body still hurt. 3 days since the miscarriage. 15 weeks pregnant, then nothing. Just cramping and bleeding and the hollow feeling that comes when hope dies inside you. She expected sympathy when Grant walked through the door, maybe flowers. Definitely an apology for missing the emergency room. His assistant said he was in an important meeting, too important to answer his phone while his wife lost their daughter. Instead, Grant set his briefcase on the marble coffee table, the expensive Italian marble he insisted on. He opened the case with practiced efficiency, like he was preparing for a presentation. His movements were precise, calculated, very CEO. He slid a folder across the table toward her. Divorce papers. Becca stared at the folder. Her coffee sat in her hands, the expensive decaf she switched to when she got pregnant. It had gone cold, bitter, like everything else that morning. I have consulted with attorneys, Grant said. His voice was crisp, professional, the same tone he used in board meetings. You will be well taken care of. The prenuptial agreement is clear, but I am willing to be generous. Generous. The word hung in the air like a slap. Becca looked up at him, really looked at him. His suit was fresh, pressed, not a wrinkle. His hair was perfect, every strand in place. He looked like a man who slept well, like a man without a care in the world. She tried to speak. Her voice came out strange, distant, like it belonged to someone else. You are divorcing me because I lost the baby. Do not be dramatic, Becca. Grant adjusted his cufflinks. Gold. Expensive. A gift from his mother. This has been coming for a while. The pregnancy just complicated things. Now we can move forward cleanly. Cleanly. As if their daughter was a complication to be tidied away. As if the baby she carried for 15 weeks was just paperwork to file. A problem to solve. A mess to clean up. Becca had known it was a girl. She felt it, deep in her bones. She started calling her Emma, never told Grant. Now she was glad she kept that secret. Emma was hers, only hers. The penthouse air conditioning hummed too loud. It always did. Grant liked it cold, said it helped him think. Becca pulled her robe tighter. The silk felt obscene against her skin. Too smooth, too expensive. Too much like a costume for a life she no longer recognized. From down the hall came the scent of lavender. The room sprays she bought for the nursery. Buttercup yellow walls, white crib still in the box, a rocking chair by the window. All of it waiting for a baby who would never come home. Grant's phone buzzed on the table. He glanced at the screen. His expression shifted. Just for a second, almost a smile. He caught himself, schooled his features back to neutral. But Becca saw it, that tiny flicker of something. Anticipation, excitement. Whatever it was not for her. It was never for her anymore. She checked her own phone, a habit she developed over the past few months. Lock, unlock, lock, unlock, lock. Looking for something. Evidence. Proof she was not crazy. That the distance she felt was real. Her wallpaper was still the ultrasound photo. 15 weeks, Emma's tiny profile. The curve of her spine, her little hand reaching out toward nothing. Becca's throat tightened. She forced the words out. There is someone else. It was not a question. Grant did not deny it, did not even pretend to be offended by the accusation. He just sighed, like she was being tiresome. Becca, let us not make this more difficult than it needs to be. More difficult? Her voice rose. She could not help it. You are divorcing me 3 days after I lost our daughter. How exactly could this be more difficult? See, this is exactly what I mean. Grant stood, buttoned his jacket. You are being emotional, irrational. This is why we need space, time apart, a clean break. A clean break, like their marriage was a bone that needed setting. Like 8 years together could be snapped in half and heal straight with enough distance. Grant picked up his briefcase. I will stay at a hotel for a few days. Give you time to process. My attorney will be in touch about the details. You should get your own representation. I recommend someone reasonable. This does not need to be a war. He walked toward the door. His shoes clicked on the hardwood. Expensive leather, Italian. Everything Grant owned was expensive and Italian, including the wife he was discarding. At the door he paused, turned back. For what it is worth, I am sorry about the baby. I know you wanted it. You wanted it. Not we, not us, you. The door closed behind him with a soft click. Final, decisive. The sound of a chapter ending. A life imploding, a future evaporating into nothing. Becca sat alone in the too-cold penthouse. The discharge papers still on the counter, the divorce papers on the table, the ultrasound photo on her phone. Lock, unlock, lock. She was not crazy. She knew what she saw. That almost smile when he looked at his phone, that eagerness to leave, that careful distance he maintained, like she was contagious. Like grief was something that might spread if he got too close. There was someone else, she knew it, felt it, the same way she knew Emma was a girl. Deep in her bones, beneath the shock and pain and disbelief, the truth waited, patient, inevitable. But the real question was not whether there was someone else. The real question was how long. How long had he been planning this? How long had he wanted out? How long had she been living in a marriage that only existed in her imagination? The coffee was ice cold now. She set it down. Her hands shook. She pressed them against her thighs, trying to stop the trembling, trying to hold herself together. But holding herself together was what got her here. Years of making excuses, years of understanding when he missed appointments, years of apologizing for needing attention, for being tired, for being pregnant. She was pregnant with his child, and she apologized for it. The thought hit her like a punch to the chest. She doubled over, gasping, not crying, not yet, just trying to breathe through the pain. Her phone rang. She almost did not answer. Almost, but it was Claire. Best friends have a sixth sense for catastrophe. They know when to call. Hey, Becca's voice cracked. Oh no, what happened? He asked for a divorce. Silence on the other end. Then very quietly, I am coming over. You do not have to. I am already in my car. Claire arrived 20 minutes later. She had a key for emergencies. This qualified. She found Becca still on the couch, still in the silk robe, still staring at nothing. Claire sat down beside her, did not ask questions, just took Becca's hand and held it. Sometimes that is all you can do. Just sit with someone while their world burns down around them. After a long time, Becca spoke. He wanted me to lose the baby. What? I do not have proof, not yet, but I know it. The way he has been acting, the distance, the relief in his eyes just now. He wanted this to happen, so he could leave without looking like the bad guy. Claire's jaw tightened. Becca, listen to me. Whatever you need, whatever you want to do, I am here. But right now, tonight, you need to rest. You need to heal. And tomorrow we figure out what comes next. What comes next? Becca laughed. It sounded unhinged even to her own ears. I am 34 years old. I have no job, no home, no baby, no husband. What exactly comes next? Tomorrow, Claire repeated firmly. We deal with tomorrow, but tonight you are coming home with me. You are not staying in this mausoleum another minute. Becca wanted to argue. Wanted to say she was fine here, but she was not fine. And this was not her home. It never was. It was Grant's showcase, his display of success. She was just another piece of expensive furniture, beautiful, functional, easily replaced. She went to the bedroom to pack a bag. The room smelled like him, his cologne, his detergent, his life without her already starting. She grabbed clothes without looking, toiletries, her phone charger, the ultrasound photo from her nightstand drawer. On her way out, she passed the nursery. The door was open, yellow walls glowing in the evening light, the crib box still unopened. Grant said he would put it together. He never did. Too busy, always too busy, always working late, always in meetings, always somewhere else, always with her, whoever she was. Becca closed the nursery door, locked it. She did not want to see it again, could not bear to see it again. All that hope, all that love, all that future packed into one bright yellow room that would stay empty forever. She left the penthouse with one small bag. Claire took her arm, guided her to the elevator, down 42 floors, each floor another second of free fall, another moment of life as she knew it disappearing. In the parking garage, Becca paused. His laptop. I need to go back. Why? Because if there is someone else, there will be evidence, emails, messages, something. I need to know. I need proof I am not crazy. Claire studied her face, then nodded. Tomorrow, when he is at work, we will go back together. We will find whatever there is to find. But tonight you rest. Rest, as if rest were possible, as if she could close her eyes and not see Emma's ultrasound, as if she could sleep and not dream of what might have been, as if 3 days of bleeding and grief could be erased by one night in a guest room. But she was so tired, bone tired, soul tired. The kind of tired that comes from carrying hope for too long, from performing happiness, from pretending everything was fine when nothing was fine. She let Claire drive her home, let herself be taken care of, let someone else make decisions for a while, because making decisions was what got her here. Deciding to trust Grant, deciding to believe him, deciding to give up her career to focus on starting a family, deciding over and over that his distance was just stress, his coldness was just exhaustion, his absence was just ambition. She decided wrong. Tomorrow she would start deciding differently. Tomorrow she would find the proof. Tomorrow she would fight back. But tonight she curled up in Claire's guest bed. The sheets smelled like lavender detergent. The room was small, warm, safe. She held her phone in her hands, looked one more time at the ultrasound photo. I am sorry, Emma, she whispered to the image. I am so sorry I could not protect you. I am so sorry your father did not want you. But I wanted you. I wanted you so much. She finally cried, great heaving sobs that shook her whole body. Grief for the baby she lost. Grief for the marriage that never really existed. Grief for the woman she used to be. The one who believed in forever. The one who thought love was enough. That woman died 3 days ago in an emergency room, along with a 15-week-old baby girl named Emma, along with 8 years of hope and trust and carefully maintained illusions. What remained was something new, something harder, something forged in betrayal and loss and the cold realization that the person you love most in the world can look at you and feel nothing. Tomorrow, that new woman would find out the truth. Tomorrow, she would see the evidence. Tomorrow, everything would change again. But she did not know how much. She did not know about the emails, the timeline, the money, the systematic dismantling of everything she thought was real. She did not know that the betrayal was so much worse than she imagined, that it went so much deeper, that it started so much earlier. She did not know that finding the truth would destroy her even more completely than the miscarriage did. But she would find out soon enough. Becca woke up in Claire's guest room at 5 in the morning. She had not really slept, just drifted in and out of something like sleep. A gray space between unconsciousness and awareness, where Emma's face kept appearing. That tiny profile, those little fingers reaching. Her body still ached. The doctor said complete bed rest for a week, said her body needed time to recover, to heal. But how do you rest when your mind will not stop racing? How do you heal when the wound keeps getting deeper? Claire was already awake, coffee brewing in the kitchen. The smell drifted down the hallway. Normally, Becca loved the smell of coffee, but now it made her nauseous. Everything made her nauseous. Grief had settled in her stomach like a stone. "You should eat something," Claire said when Becca appeared in the doorway. "I cannot." "I know, but you need to. Your body is still recovering." Becca forced down toast. It tasted like cardboard. Everything tasted like nothing, like her taste buds shut down along with everything else. "When does Grant leave for work?" Claire asked. "Usually by 7. He is always the first one in the office, has been for years." The routine Becca used to admire, Grant's dedication, his work ethic, his drive. Now she saw it differently. All those early mornings, all those late nights, all that time away from home, away from her, with someone else. At 7:30, they drove back to the penthouse. Becca's hands shook as she unlocked the door. This was her home, legally, but it felt like breaking and entering, like she was trespassing in someone else's life. The living room looked the same. Divorce papers still on the coffee table. Her cold coffee still on the side table, like a museum of her life's implosion, preserved exactly as it was when everything fell apart. Grant's laptop sat on his desk in the home office. He usually took it to work, but sometimes he forgot. Sometimes he was too busy or too distracted. Today, apparently, was one of those days. Becca sat down at the desk. Her heart pounded. This was it, the moment of truth. She could still walk away, could choose ignorance, could take the divorce settlement and disappear, start over without knowing the details. But she had to know, had to understand, had to make sense of the senseless. She opened the laptop. No password. Grant never bothered with passwords at home. Said it was unnecessary. Said he had nothing to hide. Lie. The first lie of many. Becca opened his email, started scrolling, work emails mostly, strategy meetings, budget discussions, nothing interesting, nothing personal. Then she saw it, a folder labeled V, hidden in his personal email, tucked away where a casual glance would miss it. She clicked. The world tilted. Hundreds of emails, months of correspondence. The earliest dated 9 months ago, before Becca got pregnant, before she started IVF again, before she had any idea her marriage was already over. The recipient, Vanessa Cole, 28 years old, Grant's executive assistant, the one hired 6 months after the email started, the one Becca met at the company holiday party. Pretty, professional, competent. The other woman. The email started professionally enough. Meeting schedules, project updates, standard assistant duties. Then they shifted, subtly at first. A joke here, a compliment there, then pet names. V, my angel. Beautiful. Becca's stomach turned. She kept reading. She had to, like picking at a scab. Painful but necessary. 2 months in, the emails turned explicit. Plans to meet, hotel names, times, details that made Becca want to vomit. Details that made it clear this was not just an emotional affair. This was physical. This was ongoing. This was real. But it was the dates that destroyed her. The affair started 9 months ago. Becca got pregnant 7 months ago, which meant Grant was already cheating when they did the IVF cycle that finally worked. Already planning his exit, already building a life without her. She kept scrolling, frantic now, that swipe, swipe, swipe motion of someone looking for something that will make the pain stop. It only got worse. 5 months ago, when Becca was 8 weeks pregnant, Cannot wait until this situation resolves itself. Then we can finally be together properly. No more hiding. Situation. Their baby was a situation. 4 months ago, when Becca was 12 weeks pregnant, she is so focused on the baby she does not even notice I am gone. Makes everything easier. 3 months ago, when Becca was 13 weeks pregnant, her doctor called, high-risk pregnancy. She might lose it. Part of me hopes. The sentence ended there, but Becca knew what came next. She knew what he hoped, what he wanted, what he prayed for in whatever empty space passed for his soul. He wanted her to miscarry. He wanted Emma to die, so he could move on, so he could be with Vanessa, so the situation would resolve itself. Becca ran to the bathroom, vomited. Nothing came up but bile and betrayal. She heaved over the toilet, her body trying to expel the poison. But the poison was not in her stomach. It was in her mind, in her memories, in every moment of the past 9 months. Every time she was tired and he seemed annoyed. Every time she talked about the baby and he changed the subject. Every time she reached for him and he pulled away. Every time she apologized for being pregnant. He wanted this. He wanted the miscarriage. He wanted Emma dead. The thought repeated in her head like a drumbeat, over and over. He wanted Emma dead. He wanted Emma dead. He wanted Emma dead. She sat on the bathroom floor. The tiles were cold, unforgiving. The marble smelled like bleach and luxury. Expensive everything. Beautiful nothing. A showcase marriage in a showcase home with a showcase life that was all just performance. Claire found her there, sitting in the dark. The lights had clicked off automatically. Motion sensors, very modern, very efficient, very grand. Claire did not ask questions, just sat down beside her on the cold floor, held her while she cried. Real crying this time. Not the quiet tears from last night. This was primal, guttural, the sound of something breaking that cannot be fixed. After a long time, Becca spoke. Her voice was hoarse, raw. He wanted me to lose the baby. I have proof now. He actually hoped our daughter would die. Claire's arms tightened around her. Show me. They went back to the office. Becca pulled up the emails, let Claire read them. Watched her best friend's face go from shock to rage to something colder. Something calculating. You need a lawyer, Claire said finally. Not just any lawyer. You need Walter Freeman. Walter Freeman, the shark, the lawyer who destroyed husbands for sport. The one with a 98% success rate in high net worth divorces. The one Grant's colleagues joked about at dinner parties. Hope you never end up across from Walter Freeman, they would say. Then laugh, like it was funny, like it was impossible. I cannot afford Walter Freeman. Most of his clients cannot, not at first. He works on contingency for the right cases. And Becca, this is the right case. This is exactly the kind of case he lives for. It is 7 in the morning. He gets to his office by 6. I am calling him now. Claire made the call. Becca listened to her side of the conversation. Professional, efficient, laying out the basics. CEO husband, pregnancy loss, divorce papers 3 days later. Emails showing he hoped for the miscarriage. Claire hung up. He will see you at 9. That is in 2 hours. So we have time to print out every email in that folder. We have time to document everything. We have time to build a case. They printed, page after page, the affair timeline, the explicit messages, the financial discussions that showed Grant planning his exit strategy, the casual cruelty of a man discussing his wife's pregnancy like a business problem to solve. At 8:45, they left for Walter Freeman's office. Becca carried a folder with 3 inches of printed emails, 3 inches of betrayal, 3 inches of proof that she was not crazy, that her instincts were right, that the distance she felt was real. Walter Freeman's office was downtown, 32nd floor, floor-to-ceiling windows, expensive furniture, power tie and silver hair. He looked like what he was, a weapon, a carefully crafted instrument designed for maximum damage. He shook Becca's hand. His grip was firm, professional. Mrs. Morrison, thank you for coming. Please sit. Becca sat. The chair was leather, comfortable, the kind of chair that cost more than most people's monthly rent. The kind of chair you sink into and never want to leave. I understand you have documents for me to review. Becca handed over the folder. Walter opened it, started reading. His expression did not change. He read the way surgeons cut, precise, methodical, revealing what lay beneath the surface. 20 minutes later, he closed the folder, looked up at Becca. His eyes were sharp, missing nothing. Mrs. Morrison, when is the last time you looked at your joint bank accounts? The question caught her off guard. I have not. Grant handles all the finances. We agreed I would focus on... She stopped. Could not finish. Could not say, starting a family without breaking. May I have your permission to access your financial records? Yes, of course. Walter's fingers flew across his keyboard. He had resources, connections, ways of finding information that normal people did not. That was why you paid him obscene amounts of money. That was why he was the best. 5 minutes later, he turned his laptop toward her. Mrs. Morrison, your joint savings account had $2.3 million in it 6 months ago. It now has $63,000. Becca stared at the screen. The numbers did not make sense. Could not make sense. Where did it go? Multiple transfers over 6 months. Small enough to avoid triggering automatic alerts. Large enough to add up. All moved to accounts with only your husband's name. But that is our money. From before we married. My inheritance from my grandmother. My savings from my career. Yes, which is why this is not just divorce. This is theft and potentially fraud. Walter pulled up more screens. Investment accounts liquidated, stocks sold, real estate remortgaged. A systematic dismantling of their joint financial life. All while Becca was pregnant. All while she was focused on growing a baby and preparing for motherhood. All while she trusted her husband to handle the boring details of their life together. He took everything, Becca whispered. Not everything. He left enough to avoid immediate suspicion. But he moved the bulk of your assets into accounts you cannot access. How is this legal? It is not, but he has expensive attorneys who bet you would take the prenuptial settlement and disappear quietly. $2 million sounds generous when you do not know he stole $2.3 million first. Becca's head spun. The betrayal kept getting deeper. Worse, more calculated. This was not a man who fell out of love. This was not a man who made a mistake. This was a man who planned, who strategized, who executed a careful campaign to extract himself from his marriage with maximum benefit and minimum cost. And she was the cost. Mrs. Morrison, I need to ask you a direct question. Are you interested in disappearing quietly? Becca looked at the lawyer, really looked at him, saw what he was offering. Not just legal representation, not just a divorce settlement, vengeance, justice, the chance to fight back against a man who used her hope as a weapon. No, she said, her voice was steady, clear. I am not interested in disappearing quietly. Walter Freeman smiled. It was not a kind smile. It was a predator's smile. The kind of smile that meant someone was about to be destroyed. Good. Then let us begin. Becca moved into Claire's guest room permanently, packed up her clothes, her books, her small, personal items from the penthouse, left behind everything Grant bought, the expensive furniture, the designer clothes, the jewelry. All of it felt contaminated now, tainted by the knowledge of where his money went, who he was thinking about when he bought her things. The guest room was small, 12 by 10 feet, barely big enough for a double bed and a dresser. But it was hers, safe, real. No marble countertops or floor-to-ceiling windows, just cream-colored walls and soft carpet, and the knowledge that the person who owned this space actually cared if she lived or died. Claire's teenage daughter, Megan, was surprisingly kind. 16 years old, the age where everything is dramatic and nothing matters, and yet somehow she understood that Becca's pain was different, real. The kind that does not fade with time, or distance, or new crushes. My dad cheated on my mom, Megan said one evening. They were washing dishes, a mundane activity, grounding. When I was 12, Mom found out, divorced him. It was awful, but she survived. You will too. Did it get better, Becca asked. Eventually, but it took time, and therapy, and learning to trust again. Megan handed Becca a plate to dry. The hardest part was not hating him, not letting his betrayal make me bitter. Did you succeed? Mostly. Some days are harder than others. Becca appreciated the honesty. Everyone else kept saying it would be fine, that she would be okay, that time heals all wounds. But Megan told the truth. Some wounds scar, some pain changes you, some betrayals are too deep to fully recover from. You just learn to live with them. The first court appearance was 2 weeks after Grant served papers, temporary arrangements, financial support, division of assets pending final settlement, standard divorce procedure. But nothing about this felt standard. Walter warned her Grant would bring heavy artillery. He did. 3 attorneys in tailored suits. Grant sat between them like a CEO chairing a board meeting. Calm, controlled, completely unbothered by the fact that his wife sat 20 feet away. The wife who lost his child. The wife he abandoned. The wife whose money he stole. He looked bored, actually bored, like this was an inconvenience, a minor interruption to his day, something to endure and then move past. Becca wanted to scream, wanted to throw something, wanted to make him feel even a fraction of what she felt. But she sat still, hands folded, professional, composed, because losing control was what he expected, what he wanted, proof she was unstable, emotional, irrational. She would not give him the satisfaction. Judge Nina Castellano entered the courtroom. Late 40s, dark hair pulled back severely, sharp eyes that looked like they missed nothing, saw through everything. She took her seat, reviewed the preliminary filings in silence. 5 minutes stretched to 10. Grant's lead attorney shifted uncomfortably, clearly not used to judges who actually read documents instead of just rubber stamping recommendations. Finally, Judge Castellano spoke. Her voice was level, professional, but there was steel underneath. Mr. Morrison, I am denying your motion to expedite these proceedings. Mrs. Morrison is still recovering from a significant medical event. We will reconvene in 60 days. Whoa, Grant's attorney stood, tall, silver-haired, expensive. Your Honor, my client has business obligations that require... Your client's business obligations are not my concern. Mrs. Morrison's medical recovery is... The judge's tone allowed no argument. 60 days. We will revisit all temporary arrangements at that time. The gavel cracked. Final, decisive. The sound of someone who would not be pushed around by expensive lawyers and powerful men. Becca exhaled. She had not realized she was holding her breath. Outside the courtroom, Walter pulled her aside. That went well. Judge Castellano has a reputation. She does not tolerate games. She does not care how rich you are or how many lawyers you hire. She cares about facts and fairness. So we have 60 days. We have 60 days to build an airtight case, to gather every piece of evidence, to show Judge Castellano exactly who Grant Morrison really is. Becca sat in her car in the courthouse parking garage after everyone left. Just sat there, could not bring herself to turn the key, to drive away, to move forward into whatever came next. Her phone rang. Grant. She stared at the screen, almost did not answer, but curiosity won. Or maybe masochism. Sometimes those were the same thing. Hello. That was unnecessary, Becca. His voice was clipped, irritated. Dragging this out helps no one. You moved $2 million out of our accounts while I was pregnant with our daughter. Silence, long enough to confirm what she already knew. He did not expect her to find out, did not think she would look, assumed she would take the settlement and disappear like a good little wife. That is business restructuring, he said finally. Perfectly legal. Your emails say otherwise. Another silence, longer this time. She could practically hear his mind racing, calculating, trying to figure out how much she knew, how much evidence she had, how much damage she could do. What do you want? His voice lost its polish, became something uglier, more desperate. What do I want? Becca laughed. It sounded unhinged even to her. I want our daughter back. I want the last 8 years back. I want to not know what I know about you, but since I cannot have any of that, I want justice. She hung up. Her hands had stopped shaking. That was new. For the first time since the miscarriage, she felt something other than grief. Something harder, sharper. something that tasted like rage and felt like power. That night, she could not sleep. Again. Sleep was a distant memory, a luxury for people whose worlds were not imploding. She got up at 2 in the morning, went to Claire's kitchen, started cleaning. When she was overwhelmed, she cleaned. Always had. Her therapist said it was about control. When everything feels chaotic, you clean. You organize. You impose order on the small things because the big things are unmanageable. By 3 in the morning, she had reorganized the entire pantry, alphabetized the spices, arranged cans by size, color-coded the pasta boxes. At 4, she moved to the bathroom, lined up products by height, folded towels into perfect squares, scrubbed grout until her fingers hurt. Claire found her at Ufriwa on her hands and knees, organizing the cabinet under the bathroom sink, cleaning supplies sorted by type, backup toiletries arranged in rows. Sweetie, you need to sleep. I cannot. If I sleep, I dream about the ultrasound. The moment they could not find the heartbeat, the way the technician's face changed, the silence. Grant was not even there. He was with her. Claire sat down on the bathroom floor, the same position they sat in at the penthouse. This was becoming their thing. Sitting on bathroom floors while Becca's life fell apart. So we make him pay, Claire said. It will not bring her back. No, but it might help you move forward. Forward? What a strange concept. Forward to what? Forward to a life she did not plan? Forward to being 34 and starting over? Forward to explaining to everyone why her marriage ended? Why she lost her baby? Why she trusted the wrong person? But staying here was not an option. Staying here meant drowning, meant letting Grant win, meant accepting his version of events, that their marriage was a failure, that their baby was a complication, that she was just collateral damage in his quest for a newer, younger, better life. Over the next month, Walter built their case. Financial forensics experts traced every dollar Grant moved. Technology specialists recovered deleted emails. Digital footprints that told the story of a man systematically dismantling his marriage while his wife was pregnant. They found hotel receipts, dinners at expensive restaurants, jewelry purchases that Becca never received, flowers sent to an address that was not their home, a paper trail of infidelity that was almost comically thorough. Like Grant never thought he would get caught, or did not care if he did. Walter also found the burner phone, a second cell phone registered in Grant's assistant's name, but paid from Grant's private accounts. The phone contained texts, hundreds of them, between Grant and someone listed as P. Who is P? Becca asked. Walter's expression was grim. Your brother-in-law, Patrick Morrison. The betrayal kept getting deeper. Worse. More complete. Patrick knew. Grant's older brother. The steady one. The responsible one. The one who sent a card when Becca got pregnant. Who offered congratulations and support and family unity. He knew. The whole time. He knew about Vanessa. He knew about the financial maneuvering. He helped Grant plan the divorce, advised him on timing and strategy and how to maximize his settlement while minimizing hers. Becca read the texts. Each one felt like a punch to the chest. Patrick, wait until after the first trimester. Miscarriage rates drop significantly. If she loses it, perfect timing for divorce. If not, you have options. Grant, and if she carries to term? Patrick, custody battles are expensive but manageable. You have resources. She does not. She will settle. They discussed her like a problem, a variable in an equation, a complication to manage. Not a person, not family, just an obstacle between Grant and his preferred future. The worst text came from 2 weeks before the miscarriage. Grant, doctor says high risk, possible placental issues. She might lose it anyway. Patrick, that would solve everything. Grant, I know. Wrong to hope for that? Patrick, practical, not wrong, just practical. Becca threw the phone. It hit the wall, did not break. She almost wished it had, wished she could destroy something the way these men destroyed her. Walter picked up the phone, checked the screen. We will need this as evidence. They wanted my baby dead, Grant's own brother. They discussed my daughter dying like they were discussing quarterly earnings. Like it was a strategy, a solution, a practical outcome. Yes. How do people become like that? How do you look at another human being and feel nothing? Walter had been a divorce lawyer for 30 years. He had seen everything. Every betrayal, every cruelty, every way one person could destroy another. His face showed no surprise, just a weary recognition of human capacity for evil. I do not know, Mrs. Morrison. I wish I did. But what I do know is this. We have evidence. We have proof. We have a timeline that shows systematic cruelty, and we have a judge who will not ignore it. That night, Becca wrote a letter. Not to send, just to write. Her therapist suggested journaling, getting the pain out, putting words to feelings, making the abstract concrete. Dear Emma, you never got to be born, but you made me a mother anyway. Every decision I make now, I make thinking about you. Would you be proud of me? Would you understand why I am fighting so hard? Your father wanted you dead. I wish I could say something kinder, something gentler. But the truth is the truth. He hoped you would die. He discussed your death with your uncle like they were discussing stock options. I cannot forgive that. I will never forgive that. But I can make sure it matters. Your life mattered, your almost life, the 15 weeks you existed inside me, the hope you represented, the future you could have had. I am fighting for you so people know you existed, so your death means something beyond just clearing the way for your father's convenience. I love you. I will always love you. Even though I never got to meet you. Even though you are nothing but an ultrasound photo and a hole in my heart. Love, Mom. She folded the letter, put it in a drawer, joined the growing collection of letters to a daughter who would never read them. Letters to a ghost, a memory, a possibility that died before it could become reality. But writing helped, made the grief manageable, made the rage purposeful, made the future feel possible even when the present felt unbearable. 60 days after the first court appearance, they reconvened. Same courtroom, same judge, same cast of characters. But something had shifted. Walter submitted new evidence, financial forensics, text messages, emails, a complete timeline of betrayal. Grant's attorneys tried to block it, called it inflammatory, irrelevant, an invasion of privacy. Judge Castellano overruled every objection. She read through the submission, all of it, while everyone waited. When she finished, she looked directly at Grant. Her expression revealed nothing, but her voice carried weight, judgment, the kind that comes from seeing too much and believing too little. Mr. Morrison, we will proceed to full trial. Discovery is granted for all electronic communications, financial transactions, and personal correspondence for the duration of the marriage. Trial date is set for 90 days from today. Do you understand? Grant's jaw clenched, his perfect composure cracked, just slightly, just enough to show the man underneath the mask, the one who thought he could control everything, plan everything, win everything. He was learning otherwise. The coffee shop was in a neighborhood Becca never visited. Industrial, gentrifying, hipster cafes next to abandoned warehouses, neutral territory. Somewhere neither she nor Vanessa would normally go. Somewhere they could meet without witnesses. Vanessa Cole arrived first. Becca watched her through the window. She looked smaller than Becca remembered. Not the home-wrecking seductress of her imagination. Just a woman in her late 20s. Pretty, but not stunning. Professional, but not polished. Normal, ordinary, human. That somehow made it worse. If Vanessa had been a supermodel or a genius or something exceptional, Becca could understand, could categorize the betrayal as men being men, trading up, chasing youth and beauty and novelty. But Vanessa was just normal, which meant Grant left not because Becca was not enough. He left because he was bored, because he wanted something different, because he could. Becca walked into the coffee shop. The place smelled like burned espresso and regret. Indie music played too loud. Something with acoustic guitar and sad lyrics. The universe had a terrible sense of timing. Vanessa looked up. Their eyes met. Becca saw fear there, and shame, and something else. Desperation, maybe. The look of someone drowning who knows they deserve it, but still wants to be saved. Thank you for coming, Vanessa said. Her voice shook. Why am I here? Because you deserve to know the truth. All of it. Becca sat down. Every instinct screamed at her to leave. To maintain her dignity. To not give this woman the satisfaction of seeing her pain. But she needed to know. Needed to understand. Needed to see if anything about the past 9 months was real. Vanessa's coffee sat untouched. Coral pink lipstick on the rim. The same shade Becca wore when she was 28. When she met Grant. When she thought her life was just beginning instead of entering its final act. You sent me a sympathy card, Becca said. After I lost my baby, after you had been sleeping with my husband for months, you sent me a sympathy card. I know. Vanessa's voice was barely a whisper. I am so, do not apologize. Just talk. Vanessa touched her face. That nervous gesture of someone checking if they are real, if this is really happening. Becca recognized it. She did the same thing constantly now, touching her own face, her own arms, making sure she still existed, that she was not disappearing. Grant pursued me, Vanessa began. I started working at the company 11 months ago. He was charming, attentive, said his marriage was already over, that you had grown apart, that you stayed together out of habit more than love. The classic narrative, the one every cheating man tells. My wife does not understand me. We are staying together for the children. The marriage is dead. I just have not filed papers yet. He said you were cold, distant, that you did not care about his work or his dreams or his ambitions. He made it sound like he was lonely, like he was drowning in a loveless marriage. Becca's laugh was sharp. When did you know about the pregnancy? He told me the same day you told him, said it was a last-ditch effort to save the marriage, that you got pregnant on purpose to trap him. Trap him, as if 2 years of IVF was a trap, as if 15 failed cycles was strategic planning, as if the hormones and injections and heartbreak was all just elaborate manipulation. We had been trying for 2 years, Becca said. Her voice was steady, cold, the voice of someone reciting facts. In vitro fertilization, failed cycle after failed cycle. He was there for every appointment, every injection, every phone call from the doctor saying it did not work. Every time I cried, every time I apologized for failing. He lied, Vanessa whispered. Yes, about everything. To everyone. Vanessa pulled out her phone, opened texts, slid it across the table. I found these last week. I did not know he had another phone. A burner. Becca looked at the screen. Messages between Grant and someone named R. She knew immediately. Patrick. Of course, the brother who helped plan everything. But these messages were not about Vanessa. These were about other women. Multiple affairs over the years. Before Vanessa, during Vanessa, plans for after Vanessa, strategies for hiding assets, ways to manipulate prenuptial agreements. An entire instruction manual for destroying a marriage while maximizing personal benefit. He told me I was special, Vanessa said, that he never felt this way before, that this was different, real forever. He told me the same things 8 years ago. I know that now, Vanessa's voice broke. I thought I was saving him from a bad marriage. I thought we had something real. But I was just next in line. Becca wanted to hate her, should hate her. This woman slept with her husband while she was pregnant. This woman was part of the reason Emma died, part of the reason Grant pulled away, part of the reason the stress and loneliness and betrayal compromised the pregnancy. But looking at Vanessa's face, Becca saw only another victim, another woman Grant lied to, another person who believed the performance, another fool who thought they were special. Why are you telling me this? Becca asked. Vanessa's hand moved to her stomach, a protective gesture, unconscious, automatic. The gesture every pregnant woman makes, cradling the future, protecting the vulnerable. No. You are pregnant, Becca said. Not a question, a statement. 8 weeks. I told Grant last week. He said to take care of it, said we would deal with starting a family later, after everything settled, after the divorce finalized, when things were not so complicated. And when you said you wanted to keep it? Vanessa pulled up her sleeve. Bruises, finger-shaped marks on her upper arm, dark purple fading to green. recent, painful. He grabbed me, said I was trying to trap him, just like you did, said he would not let another woman ruin his life with an unwanted pregnancy. The world tilted. Becca felt dizzy, sick. Grant was violent, actually violent, not just emotionally cruel, physically dangerous. How long before he hit instead of grabbed? How long before bruises became something worse? We need to call my lawyer, Becca said, right now. I do not. Yes, you do. Because what he did to you is assault, and what he did to me is fraud, and what he did to both of us is systematic abuse. We are not just victims, we are witnesses, and together we can destroy him. Walter Freeman arrived 15 minutes later with a paralegal and recording equipment. He took Vanessa's statement, photographed the bruises, documented everything with the precision of someone building a legal weapon. Vanessa agreed to testify, agreed to provide the burner phone evidence, agreed to everything. Not for revenge, for survival. Because staying silent meant staying vulnerable, meant letting Grant continue hurting people, meant being complicit in his cruelty. After Vanessa left, Walter turned to Becca. With her testimony, we do not just have divorce anymore. We have assault, battery, financial fraud, and a pattern of behavior that shows systematic emotional cruelty. Can we win? Mrs. Morrison, we can do more than win. We can make sure Grant Morrison never hurts another woman again. That evening, Becca walked, just walked. No destination, no purpose, just moving, putting one foot in front of the other, trying to process everything. She ended up at a park, swings and slides and children playing, normal life continuing, oblivious to the fact that some people's worlds were ending while others were just beginning. A woman jogged past with a baby in one of those expensive running strollers, the kind Becca researched, the kind she planned to buy, the kind that now would never leave the shopping cart in her browser history. She watched the woman disappear around the curve, felt the ghost of Emma kick, that phantom pregnancy sensation that haunts women who lose babies. Your body remembers even when your mind tries to forget. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost did not answer. But it could be important. Could be Walter. Could be news. Hello? A woman's voice. Cold. Cultured. Upper crust accent that spoke of boarding schools and trust funds and generations of money. Mrs. Morrison, this is Judith Morrison. I believe it is time you and I had a conversation about my son. Judith Morrison's penthouse made Grants look like student housing. This was old money, generational wealth, the kind that came with history and expectations and the burden of maintaining a legacy. Becca stood in the marble foyer feeling distinctly out of place. She wore her best dress, the navy one from her marketing days. Professional, appropriate. But next to Judith's Chanel suit and pearl earrings, Becca felt like a child playing dress-up. Tea? Judith asked, like they were here for a social call. Like the last month had not happened, like her son was not currently destroying Becca's life. No, thank you. Suit yourself. Judith poured herself a cup. Earl Grey. The scent made Becca nauseous. Everything made her nauseous these days. Grief had settled permanently in her stomach. They sat in the living room, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park. Art on the walls that probably cost more than most houses, furniture that belonged in museums. This was not a home. This was a monument to wealth and power and the careful curation of image. I suppose you are wondering why I asked you here, Judith said. The thought crossed my mind. I want you to destroy my son. The words hung in the air, shocking in their directness, their cruelty, a mother saying she wanted her child destroyed. Becca stared at Judith, trying to understand, trying to reconcile this elegant woman with the words coming out of her mouth. I do not understand. Do you not? How could you? Judith set down her cup with precision, every movement calculated, controlled. Grant is my youngest, my baby. Patrick is steady, responsible, predictable, boring. Grant was supposed to be special, brilliant, the one who would take the Morrison name to new heights. And instead, he became his father. The way Judith said father, like a curse, like a wound that never healed, like decades of pain compressed into one word. Judith stood, walked to the windows, looked out at the park. Her reflection in the glass showed something Becca had not seen before. Age, weariness, the weight of maintaining perfection for too long. My husband cheated throughout our marriage, Judith said. Her voice was flat, emotionless, the tone of someone reciting facts about someone else's life. Flaunted it, made me the joke of every charity gala, every dinner party, every family gathering. Everyone knew, everyone talked, no one did anything. Becca said nothing. What could she say? What words existed for this? I stayed because that is what women of my generation did. We stayed, we smiled, we pretended, we maintained the image, the Morrison name, the family legacy. We sacrificed ourselves on the altar of respectability. Judith turned from the window. Her eyes met Becca's, behind the cultured exterior, behind the perfect makeup and expensive clothes, behind the careful control. Becca saw rage, the kind that burned for decades, the kind that never died, just waited. When I found out Grant was following in his father's footsteps, I warned him, told him I would not watch him destroy another woman the way I was destroyed. He promised me you were different, that his marriage would be different, that he learned from his father's mistakes. Judith's laugh was bitter, sharp. He lied. Of course he lied. Morrisons always lie. It is what they do best. Becca's hands were shaking. She pressed them against her thighs, a useless gesture. The tremor was internal. No amount of pressure could stop it. How did you find out? Becca asked. About the pregnancy, about his hopes that I would lose the baby. Patrick told me. My eldest son thought I should know what my youngest had become. He thought I would help cover it up, protect the family name, do what Morrison women always do. But you did not. No, I did not. Judith pulled a folder from her desk, thick, heavy, the weight of secrets and lies and carefully hidden truths. Instead, I'm going to help you dismantle everything my husband built, everything my son inherited, everything the Morrison name represents. She handed the folder to Becca. Inside, financial records spanning decades. Trust fund documents, shell companies, offshore accounts, real estate holdings hidden in corporate names. A complete map of Morrison family wealth and where it was really hidden. Grant's prenuptial agreement is valid, Judith explained, but it only covers assets he claimed to have. These accounts, trusts established before you married, European investments in my name that he controls, those are not covered. And technically, they are part of the marital estate if we argue he had operational control. Becca's head spun. The numbers were staggering. 30 million, 40 million. Assets Grant never disclosed. Wealth he claimed did not exist. Money that should be part of the divorce settlement, but was conveniently forgotten in the prenuptial agreement. Why are you doing this? Becca asked. Because I let one man destroy my life. I will not stand by and watch another destroy yours. Judith's voice finally showed emotion. Raw, painful, decades of suppressed feeling breaking through the careful control. Because somewhere in that wreckage of a marriage, you loved him, and he used that love as a weapon. Because I know what you are feeling right now, that rage that has nowhere to go. I am offering you a target. And your husband? Dead, 10 years now, heart attack at 65. The doctor said it was stress. I said it was karma. Judith smiled. It was not a kind smile. He spent his life treating women as disposable. In the end, his heart gave out. There is poetry in that. Becca looked down at the folder. This was not just evidence. This was ammunition. The kind that could destroy Grant completely. Financially, professionally, personally. The kind of exposure that ruined lives and ended careers and made sure everyone knew exactly what kind of man he really was. Will this work? Becca asked. That depends on your lawyer. But if he is as good as people say, yes, this will work. Becca noticed Judith's hands shaking slightly as she poured more tea. That tiny tremor of someone maintaining control through pure force of will. The same tremor Becca saw in her own reflection. The same shake that came from holding too much inside for too long. I had 3 miscarriages before Patrick, Judith said quietly. My husband missed every single one. Business trips, he said. I found out years later they were affairs. I know what you are feeling right now, Mrs. Morrison. That grief mixed with betrayal, that sense that you were grieving alone while he was somewhere else. Not just physically absent, emotionally gone. The worst betrayal is not the affair. It is realizing you were performing grief and motherhood and hope for an audience of one who was not even watching. I am sorry, Becca said. Do not be. Use it. Use my pain. It's my anger. Use my resources. Destroy my son the way his father destroyed me. Because that is the only way the cycle ends. That is the only way men like him learn there are consequences. Becca left Judith's penthouse with the folder under her arm, heavy with secrets and promises of justice. She called Walter from the elevator. I have something you need to see. Can I come to your office? How soon can you be here? 20 minutes. I will clear my schedule. Walter Freeman nearly had a heart attack when Becca showed him the documents. He spread them across his conference table, page after page of financial records, proof of hidden assets, evidence of fraud, a roadmap to destroying Grant Morrison's carefully constructed financial fortress. Where did you get this? Walter asked. His mother. Walter looked up. His expression showed something rare, surprise. Judith Morrison gave you these documents? She wants me to destroy him. Her words, not mine. Walter was quiet for a long moment, processing, calculating, seeing the possibilities. With Vanessa's testimony about the affair and violence, with these financial records from Judith, with the original emails showing he hoped for the miscarriage, we do not just have a divorce case anymore. What do we have? We have fraud, financial malfeasance, systematic emotional cruelty, a pattern of behavior spanning years. Mrs. Morrison, we can destroy him. Utterly. Will it bring Emma back? The question hung between them, both knowing the answer, both understanding that justice and healing were not the same thing, that winning in court did not undo loss, that revenge, however satisfying, did not fill the hole left by a dead baby and a dead marriage. No, Walter said honestly, it will not bring her back, but it might prevent him from doing this to someone else. That night, Claire found Becca in the guest room, surrounded by papers, legal documents, financial statements, the accumulated evidence of her marriage's death. You okay? Claire asked. I do not know what okay means anymore. Becca gestured at the papers. Grant's own mother is helping me destroy him. His mistress is testifying against him. The family I thought I married into is imploding. And I am sitting here still bleeding from losing my daughter, planning legal warfare. Claire sat on the bed. Do you want to stop? No. Then do not feel guilty about fighting back. He started this war. You are just finishing it. I wanted babies and Sunday mornings and growing old together. Instead, I got betrayal and lawyers and evidence folders. I know. But you cannot go back. You can only go forward. And right now, forward means making sure he pays for what he did. Somewhere along the way, I became invisible, just a placeholder in his life, marking time until someone younger came along, someone who did not ask for commitment, someone who did not want babies, someone who fit his image of the life he wanted instead of the life he had. But invisible women can see everything. That was Grant's mistake. He thought because he stopped looking at her, she stopped seeing him. He thought because he checked out emotionally, she would too. He thought he could plan his exit in plain sight because she was too focused on the pregnancy to notice anything else. He was wrong. Becca saw everything. The distance, the coldness, the way he flinched when she touched him, the way he volunteered for late meetings and business trips, the way he looked through her instead of at her. She saw it all. She just did not want to believe it. Did not want to accept what her instincts screamed. Did not want to be the kind of woman whose husband cheated, whose marriage failed, whose baby died. But wanting and being were different things. She was that woman now, would always be that woman, the wife who was not enough, the mother who lost her daughter, the fool who trusted the wrong person. Except she was more than that now. She was also the woman fighting back, the one gathering evidence, the one building a case, the one refusing to disappear quietly into the night. Grant expected her to take the settlement, to go away, to start over somewhere else with $2 million in a non-disclosure agreement, in the understanding that Morrison men always won. He was about to learn differently. The deposition was scheduled for 10 in the morning on a Tuesday. Becca woke at 3, could not go back to sleep. By 7, she vomited twice. By 8, she changed outfits 4 times. By 9, Claire had to physically stop her from canceling. "You can do this," Claire said, firm, grounding. "I cannot face him. I cannot sit across from him and talk about our daughter and his affairs and pretend I am not dying inside. You are not pretending. You are surviving. There is a difference." Okay, though. The bathroom floor was cold. Becca sat there, knees pulled to chest. That position she found herself in constantly now, curled up, making herself small, trying to take up less space, as if disappearing physically would make the pain hurt less. Her phone sat in her hands. Lock, unlock, lock, unlock, lock. The compulsive checking, the need to verify she still existed, that this was real, that she was not imagining the whole nightmare. Her wallpaper was still Emma's ultrasound. She tried changing it once, got as far as selecting a new photo, then stopped. Could not do it. Changing it made Emma more gone, made the pregnancy more unreal, made the grief more permanent. "You need to change that photo," Claire said gently. "Carrying her image with you every day keeps reopening the wound." "The wound is always open. The photo just reminds me why." "Becca, I know, I will change it. Eventually, just not today. Not right before I have to sit across from the man who wanted her dead." The deposition room smelled like stale coffee and desperation. Fluorescent lights too bright, walls too white, everything sterile, clinical, like they were here to discuss quarterly earnings instead of the systematic destruction of a human being. Grant sat across the table with his 3 attorneys. Expensive suits, calm expressions, the look of men who believed they had already won, who thought this was just procedure, paperwork, a formality before the inevitable settlement. Grant would not meet her eyes, looked everywhere else, at his lawyers, at the court reporter, at the ceiling, anywhere but at Becca. Coward. The questions started simple. Marriage date, employment history, joint assets, standard deposition procedure. Then they got harder, more personal, more painful. "Mrs. Morrison, can you describe your emotional state following your miscarriage?" Devastated. Becca's voice was steady, practiced. She rehearsed this with Walter, knew what to say, how to say it. "Shattered, grieving, lost." "And your husband's response?" "He asked for a divorce 3 days later." Grant's attorney stood, Marcus Whitmore, silver-haired, expensive, smooth. "Objection. That is a characterization. It is what happened." Becca's voice did not rise, did not break, just stated fact. Cold, clear, undeniable. "I came home from the hospital on Thursday. Grant moved to a hotel on Friday. Divorce papers arrived on Sunday. 3 days." The court reporter's fingers flew across the keys. Tap, tap, tap. Recording the disintegration of her life in real time. Documenting betrayal with punctuation and grammar. "Mrs. Morrison, did you receive emotional support from anyone during this time?" "My best friend, my therapist." Becca paused. Let the next words land with weight. "Grant's mother." That got his attention. Grant looked up. Their eyes met for the first time. She saw surprise, then fury, then something like fear. Because if his mother was helping Becca, nothing was safe. No secret was secure. The family fortress had been breached from the inside. "His mother?" Whitmore repeated. Like he misheard, like it could not possibly be true. "Yes, Judith Morrison has been very supportive, very helpful." The room temperature dropped 10 degrees. Grant leaned toward his attorneys, whispered urgently. They whispered back. A conference happening in real time while Becca sat calmly, watching them scramble, watching the first crack appear in their perfect strategy. They broke for lunch. Becca could not eat, could not even think about food. She went to the courthouse bathroom, locked herself in a stall. Someone was crying in the stall next to her, some other woman's life falling apart in parallel. Becca pulled out her phone, texted her therapist. "I do not think I can do this." Dr. Crowley responded immediately. "You are already doing it. That is the hard part. Now you just keep breathing." But breathing felt impossible. The bathroom walls closed in. The fluorescent lights buzzed too loud. She could hear Grant's voice through the bathroom wall. On the phone with someone. Laughing, still laughing. He destroyed me and he is laughing. That is what I need to remember. When I want to give up, when I want to take the settlement and disappear, when I start thinking maybe I am being vindictive, maybe I should just let it go. I need to remember that laugh, that casual cruelty, that complete absence of remorse. The afternoon session focused on finances. Walter guided her through the discovery of the missing money, date by date, transfer by transfer. A systematic dismantling of their joint accounts while she was pregnant and vulnerable and focused on growing a baby. Whitmore tried to paint Becca as financially naive, as a woman who should have paid more attention, who should have checked the accounts, who should have noticed $2 million disappearing. Mrs. Morrison, is it not true you had full access to all accounts? Yes, I had access. You could have checked the balances at any time. I could have, but I trusted my husband to manage our finances. You are a college-educated woman, a former marketing director. Surely you understand basic financial management. I understand it perfectly. Becca's voice was ice. I also understand that when you are going through in vitro fertilization, when you are taking hormones that make you feel insane, when you are focused on getting pregnant after 2 years of trying, you trust your spouse to handle other things. That trust was misplaced. That is not my client's fault. Is it not? Becca pulled out the timeline Walter prepared. Dates of asset transfers matched against dates of fertility treatments. Every time I had an IVF appointment, Grant moved money. Every cycle I went through, another account appeared in his name only. Every time I got a negative pregnancy test and cried for hours, he was systematically hiding our assets. She spread the documents across the table. The pattern was undeniable, obvious, damning. Every moment of her hope corresponded to a moment of his betrayal. Every time she reached for a future, he was dismantling the foundation. Grant's attorneys called for a recess. Urgent, unexpected. They had not seen this timeline. Grant did not tell them, did not share the full extent of his planning. They thought they were defending a man going through a divorce, not a man who executed a years-long campaign of financial fraud and emotional terrorism. Becca sat in the conference room during the recess, Walter beside her, silent, letting her process. I can see it in their faces, Becca said. They did not know. Grant did not tell his own lawyers the full story. Most clients do not. They present the version that makes them look best. Your job is to show the judge the real version. And if the real version is worse than anyone imagined, then justice becomes inevitable. That night, Becca could not sleep. Again. Insomnia was her constant companion now. She went to the kitchen, started cleaning. When overwhelmed, clean. When everything feels chaotic, impose order on the small things. By midnight, Claire's kitchen was spotless. Pantry reorganized. Refrigerator sorted. Cabinets arranged by frequency of use. At 1 a.m, Becca moved to the bathroom. Lined up products, folded towels, scrubbed until her hands hurt. At 2, she stopped. Looked at herself in the mirror. Really looked. She barely recognized the woman staring back. Thinner. Older. Harder. This was not the woman who got married 8 years ago. Not the woman who dreamed of babies and Sunday mornings and growing old together. This was someone new, forged in grief and rage and betrayal. Someone who knew what people were capable of, what love could turn into, what forever actually meant. Nothing. Forever meant nothing. Promises meant nothing. Vows meant nothing. 8 years meant nothing. A pregnancy meant nothing. A daughter meant nothing. Nothing meant anything except what you could prove in court, what you could document, what you could force someone to pay for. She went back to the guest room, could not sit still, could not lie down, could not rest. Her body vibrated with energy, rage, fear, something between fight and flight that had nowhere to go. Her phone buzzed. 3 a.m, text from an unknown number. She almost did not open it, almost deleted it without looking. But curiosity won. I know what you are doing. It will not work. You will regret this. Grant. The message was supposed to intimidate, to scare her into backing down, into accepting the settlement, into disappearing. It had the opposite effect. Becca smiled, a cold smile, a dangerous smile, the smile of someone who finally understood the game, who stopped playing by rules that only applied to her, who realized that being the bigger person just meant letting bad men win. She forwarded the message to Walter, added one line, "Is this witness intimidation?" Walter responded immediately. "Lawyers never sleep." "Yes, file a complaint first thing tomorrow. Thank him for giving us more ammunition." Becca almost laughed. Grant was so used to winning, so accustomed to intimidation working, to threats forcing compliance, to power meaning victory. He did not understand that some people, when pushed far enough, stop bending and start breaking things, stop retreating and start fighting back, stop caring about being nice and start caring about being heard. She texted back, one sentence, simple, clear, final. "See you in court." The weeks between the deposition and trial passed in a blur of preparation and paperwork and endless strategizing. Walter's office became Becca's second home, or maybe her first. Claire's guest room was just where she slept. Walter's office was where she lived, where she fought, where she built the weapon that would destroy Grant Morrison. But fighting was exhausting. Becca felt it in her bones, in her soul, in the hollow space where Emma used to be. This was survival, but survival was not the same as living, just breathing, just existing, just moving forward because stopping meant drowning. One evening, 3 weeks before trial, Becca found herself driving. No destination, just driving. Away from Claire's house, away from the city, away from lawyers and depositions and evidence folders. She ended up at the old apartment, the one she shared with Grant before they moved to the penthouse, before success and money and the careful curation of image, when they were just two people trying to build a life together. The building super recognized her, let her in. The new tenants were out. He gave her 20 minutes, said he understood. People sometimes needed to say goodbye to places, to memories, to versions of themselves that no longer existed. The apartment looked different. New furniture, new paint, new life. But the bones were the same. The kitchen where they cooked dinner together. The living room where they watched movies. The bedroom where they made love and plans and promises about forever. She walked to what used to be the second bedroom, the one they always said would be the nursery. Eventually, when the time was right, when they were ready. The room was an office now. Desk, computer, file cabinets, practical, functional, no space for dreams or hope or the ghost of a baby that never came home. Becca sat on the floor, right in the middle of the empty office, the place where Emma's crib should have been, where she should have rocked her daughter to sleep, where she should have counted tiny fingers and toes and marveled at the miracle of creating life. The breakdown came suddenly, completely. Not crying, worse, a complete shattering of whatever was holding her together. She curled into a ball on the floor, made herself as small as possible, tried to disappear into the carpet. This was the bottom, the place beneath grief and rage, the place where hope died and nothing grew in its place. Just emptiness, just the recognition that some losses are too big to survive. You do not recover. You do not heal. You just learn to live with the hole where your life used to be. Her phone rang. She ignored it. Rang again. Again. Finally, she answered. "Where are you?" Claire's voice. Worried, urgent. "Becca, where are you?" "The old apartment." "Stay there, I am coming." I cannot do this anymore. The trial, the evidence, the constant reliving of the worst moments of my life. I cannot. Yes, you can. You are doing it. You are fighting. For what? Grant will still be Grant. Emma will still be dead. I will still be alone at 34 with nothing but rage and settlement money. Becca, listen to me. You are in the dark place right now, the place where everything feels hopeless. But this is not truth. This is trauma. This is grief. It will pass. What if it does not? Then we deal with that when it comes. But right now, tonight, you need to get out of that apartment. You need to come home. You need to remember that you are not alone, that you have people who love you, that your life is not over. It is just different than you planned. Becca looked around the empty office, the place where Emma should have been. I do not know who I am anymore. I do not recognize myself. Everything I wanted is gone. Everyone I trusted betrayed me. I am just fragments, broken pieces, and I do not know how to put them back together. Maybe you are not supposed to put them back together. Maybe you are supposed to become something new, something stronger, something that survived what should have destroyed you. The door opened. Claire must have been calling from the car, must have already been on the way. She sat down on the floor next to Becca. Just sat. No words, no platitudes, just presence, just being there in the wreckage. I failed her, Becca whispered. Emma, I failed to keep her safe. I failed to give her a father who wanted her. I failed to create a home where she could grow up loved and secure. You did not fail. Your body failed. That is not the same thing, and Grant failed. He failed as a husband, as a father, as a human being. But you loved her. You wanted her. You did everything right. This is not your fault. Then why does it feel like it is? Because you are a mother. Even without a living child, you are a mother, and mothers always blame themselves, always think they could have done something different, something better, something that would have changed the outcome. They sat in the empty office for an hour, maybe longer. Time felt strange, elastic, like grief stretched minutes into years and compressed years into seconds. Finally, Claire spoke. We need to leave now. This place is not good for you. Sitting in the ghost of what could have been is not healing. It is torture. Becca let Claire help her up, let herself be guided out of the apartment, out of the building, into the car. She was so tired, bone tired, soul tired. The kind of tired that sleep does not fix. That night she dreamed about Emma. Not the ultrasound photo, not the lost pregnancy. Something else. A dream where Emma was 5 years old, playing in a backyard, laughing, alive, real. Dream Emma turned to look at her. It is okay, Mama. You can let go now. Becca woke up crying, but different crying, not the desperate sobs of grief, something softer, sadder, the crying that comes with acceptance, with recognition that some things cannot be fixed, cannot be changed, can only be carried. She picked up her phone, opened her photos, found the ultrasound picture, looked at it one last time, really looked, let herself memorize every detail, every curve, every shadow. Then she changed her wallpaper, chose a picture of a sunrise, new day, new beginning, not forgetting Emma, never forgetting Emma, just choosing to carry her memory differently, in her heart instead of her hand, in her mind instead of her pocket. The wound would always be there, but keeping it open was not helping anyone. Not Emma, not Becca, not anyone. She wrote one more letter. Dear Emma, I changed my wallpaper today. It felt like betraying you, like moving on, like saying you do not matter. But you do matter. You always will. You made me a mother. You taught me that love does not require a heartbeat, that loss does not diminish worth, that grief is just love with nowhere to go. I am going to trial soon. I am going to make sure your father pays for what he did. Not just to me, to you, to the idea of you, to the future we should have had. And then I am going to try to build something from the wreckage. I do not know what yet. Maybe a career, maybe a nonprofit, maybe just a life that honors your memory by refusing to let your death define me. I love you. I will always love you. But I am going to try to live anyway. I think you would want me to. Love, Mom. She folded the letter, put it with the others. Then she opened her laptop, started researching. What could she do with the settlement money? How could she turn pain into purpose, grief into action? She found organizations supporting women through pregnancy loss, through divorce, through the intersection of both. She read stories of women who survived what she was surviving, who built new lives from the ruins of old ones, who turned their worst moments into fuel for fighting back. An idea started forming, fragile, tentative, but real. What if she started an organization? What if Emma's voice became more than just letters to a dead baby? What if it became support for living women going through similar hell? She made notes, plans, a website, resources, counseling, legal support, a safe space to grieve without judgment, to be angry without apology, to rebuild without pressure, to move on before ready. By morning, she had the outline of a nonprofit, a mission statement, a purpose beyond just surviving, a way to make Emma's life, her almost life, matter. Claire found her at the kitchen table surrounded by papers and coffee cups in the energy of someone who found a reason to keep going. "You look different," Claire said. "I feel different. I am still broken, still grieving, still furious, but I have a purpose now. Something beyond just destroying Grant. Something that builds instead of just tearing down. Tell me." Becca showed her the plans, the nonprofit, the resources, the vision. Claire listened, nodded, asked questions, added suggestions, and slowly the shape of something real emerged. Not healing, not closure, not moving on, but moving forward. There was a difference. Moving on implied forgetting. Moving forward meant carrying the weight but choosing the direction. Trial was 2 weeks away. Becca spent those weeks preparing. Testimony, evidence, strategy, but also building Emma's voice, creating something that would outlast the settlement, that would matter more than revenge, because Grant was going to pay. The evidence was overwhelming. Vanessa's testimony, Judith's documents, the email trail, the timeline, the systematic cruelty. Walter was confident, not just of winning, of annihilation. But winning was not enough. Becca needed purpose, needed to believe that this nightmare had meaning, that Emma's death was not just a convenience for a man who wanted a different life, that the past year of suffering would result in something beyond just a bank transfer and a divorce decree. She needed to matter. Emma needed to matter. The grief needed to matter. And so Emma's voice was born, not from joy, from pain. But sometimes pain is the only honest foundation. Sometimes the best things grow from the worst soil. Sometimes broken people build beautiful things from the shattered pieces of their lives. Not because they want to, because they have to, because the alternative is drowning. And some people, when faced with drowning, choose to build a boat instead. Even if the boat is made of rage and grief and the stubborn refusal to let bad men win. The courthouse steps were crowded with reporters, news vans, cameras. This was not just a divorce anymore. This was a story. Tech CEO accused of emotional cruelty. Wife alleges systematic abuse. Mistress turned witness. Mother testifying against son. The Morrison family drama had everything: money, power, betrayal, dead baby, all the elements of the tragedy that people could not look away from. Becca wore a navy suit, simple, professional, hair pulled back, minimal makeup. She looked like what she was, a woman who survived something terrible and was here to make sure it mattered. Grant arrived separately, his 3 attorneys flanking him like bodyguards. He wore his most expensive suit, his most confident expression, playing the role of wronged husband, reasonable man facing vindictive ex-wife, victim of circumstances beyond his control. The performance was impressive. If Becca did not know the truth, she might believe it, might think Grant was just a man going through a difficult divorce, a man who made mistakes but did not deserve destruction. But she knew the truth, saw behind the mask, understood that everything Grant did was calculated, controlled, designed to maximize his benefit and minimize his cost. Judge Nina Castellano entered the courtroom. Everyone stood. The formality of it felt strange, archaic, like they were performing a ritual that lost meaning generations ago but continued out of habit. "Please be seated," Judge Castellano said. Her voice carried authority. Weight, the kind that came from years of watching people lie and knowing how to see through the performance. "We are here today for Morrison versus Morrison. I have reviewed all submitted evidence. This trial will proceed with opening statements followed by witness testimony. Mr. Freeman, you may begin." Walter stood. He looked like what he was, a weapon, a tool designed for maximum damage. "Your Honor, this case is about a man who weaponized his wife's hope. Rebecca Morrison spent 3 years trying to have a child with her husband, in vitro fertilization, medications, Heartbreak. When she finally succeeded, when she was finally pregnant with their daughter, Grant Morrison was secretly hoping for a miscarriage so he could proceed with his affair and his financial fraud unencumbered. The gallery murmured, shocked, scandalized. Judge Castellano's expression did not change. She heard worse, saw worse, but her eyes sharpened, focused on Grant with the intensity of someone who already formed an opinion but was willing to be proven wrong. Walter continued, when that miscarriage tragically occurred at 15 weeks, Mr. Morrison asked for a divorce within 72 hours. While his wife was still bleeding, still grieving, still processing the loss. This is not a marriage that fell apart. This is a marriage that was systematically destroyed by a man who saw his wife's vulnerability as opportunity. Marcus Whitmore stood for the defense. Silver hair, expensive suit, the look of a man who won cases through confidence and intimidation. Your Honor, what we have here is a bitter wife trying to weaponize tragedy for financial gain. Yes, the Morrisons divorced. Yes, the timing was unfortunate. But marriages end, miscarriages happen. These facts do not constitute cruelty. Mr. Morrison offered a generous settlement, $2 million. Mrs. Morrison rejected it because her attorneys saw an opportunity to exploit her pregnancy loss for maximum financial leverage. This is not about justice. It is about greed. The competing narratives hung in the air. Victim versus villain, betrayal versus bitterness, truth versus performance. Judge Castellano would decide which version matched the evidence. Mr. Freeman, call your first witness, Judge Castellano said. The plaintiff calls Rebecca Morrison to the stand. Becca stood, walked to the witness box. Every eye in the courtroom followed her. She was sworn in. The Bible felt heavy in her hands, the weight of truth, of testimony, of finally being heard. Walter started gently. Background questions, where she grew up, her education, her career, her marriage. Standard testimony that established who she was before Grant destroyed her. Mrs. Morrison, can you describe your fertility journey? And Becca did. 3 years of trying, 15 IVF cycles, hormones that made her feel crazy, weight gain, mood swings, hope dying every month. Then finally a positive test, 7 weeks pregnant, then 10, then 12, then 15. How did your husband react to the pregnancy? He seemed happy, said all the right things, but he was distant. Always working, always busy. I thought it was stress. What was it actually? He was having an affair with his executive assistant, Vanessa Cole. The affair started before I got pregnant, continued during the pregnancy. He hoped I would miscarry so he could be with her without complications. Whitmore objected. Speculation. The witness cannot know what Mr. Morrison hoped. Sustained, Judge Castellano said. Mr. Freeman, stick to what your client can personally verify. Walter nodded, pivoted. Mrs. Morrison, when did you find out about the affair? After he asked for the divorce, I found emails on his laptop, correspondence between him and Vanessa dating back 9 months, before I got pregnant. What did those emails say? That I was a situation, that he hoped the situation would resolve itself, that once I lost the baby, they could finally be together properly. The courtroom was silent. Even the court reporter paused, fingers hovering over keys. Everyone processing the calculated cruelty, the casual dismissal of a life, a baby, a future. Walter pulled up an email on the screen. Projected for everyone to see. Is this the email you are referring to? Becca read it, even though she memorized every word, even though she could recite it in her sleep. Seeing it projected on a screen, in a courtroom, made it more real somehow, more permanent, more true. Yes, that is the email. Can you read the relevant portion for the court? Becca's voice did not shake, did not break, just recited. Clinical. Cold. Her doctor called. High-risk pregnancy. She might lose it. Part of me hopes for that. Would make everything easier. Cleaner. The gallery erupted. Whispers. Gasps. Judge Castellano called for order. Grant stared at the table, would not look up, would not meet anyone's eyes. The mask finally cracking. the performance finally failing. Walter continued, built the case piece by piece, email by email, date by date, a timeline of betrayal that corresponded exactly to Becca's pregnancy. Every milestone in growing Emma matched a milestone in Grant's exit strategy. Mrs. Morrison, can you describe the day you lost your pregnancy? This was the hard part, the moment Becca dreaded, but she lived through it. She could talk about it, could turn the worst day of her life into testimony, into evidence, into ammunition. I was 15 weeks. I woke up bleeding, cramping. I called Grant. He was in a meeting, said he would try to get away. I called Claire, my best friend. She drove me to the emergency room. Where was your husband? I do not know. He showed up 6 hours later, said traffic was bad. Was traffic bad? No, phone records show he was at the Four Seasons Hotel. Vanessa Cole checked in at the same time. More gasps, more whispers. Grant's attorneys huddled together. Urgent conversation. They did not know about the phone records. Grant did not tell them. Probably thought they would never surface. That Becca would never find out. That his secrets would stay secret. Your Honor, Whitmore stood. This is inflammatory. It is evidence, Walter shot back. Phone records, hotel records, all submitted as Exhibit F. Judge Castellano reviewed the exhibit. Her expression did not change. But something shifted, some internal calculation. Overruled. Continue. Walter walked Becca through the aftermath. The miscarriage, the grief, the divorce papers 3 days later. The systematic dismantling of her life while she was still bleeding. Still processing. Still trying to understand how her future disappeared in a hospital bathroom. Mrs. Morrison, there is something you do when you are being gaslit. Can you describe it? Becca nodded. This was the parasocial moment, the thing every woman who had been there would recognize. You check your phone, lock, unlock, lock, looking for evidence you are not crazy, looking for proof that what you are experiencing is real. I did that constantly in the months before the miscarriage. I knew something was wrong. I just could not name it. Half the women in the gallery nodded, recognition, understanding. They knew that feeling, that compulsive checking, that need to verify reality when someone was systematically denying it. Walter continued, what was the hardest part? That I apologize for being tired during the pregnancy, for being emotional, for being pregnant at all. I apologize for carrying his child. And he let me. Let me apologize while planning his escape. I was performing grief alone while he was performing concern. We were both actors, but only I did not know it was a performance. Cross-examination was brutal. Whitmore tried everything, questioned the timeline, suggested she misunderstood the emails, implied financial motivation, painted her as a woman scorned who could not accept that marriages sometimes fail. Mrs. Morrison, is it not true you knew about the prenuptial agreement when you married? Yes. And that prenup gives you $2 million? Yes. That is a significant sum. It is not about the money. Really? Then why reject the settlement? Becca looked at Grant, really looked at him. Let him see what he created, the woman he turned her into. Because accepting it would mean accepting his version of events, that our daughter was a complication, that our marriage was a failed business venture, that I am just a disgruntled ex-wife making trouble. I will not accept that narrative. Emma existed. She mattered. And what Grant did matters too. Judge Castellano called for a recess. Everyone filed out. Becca sat in the conference room with Walter, shaking, not from fear, from adrenaline, from finally saying the truth out loud, from being heard. You did well, Walter said. Did I? You told your story, honestly, without embellishment, without drama. That is all any judge wants, the truth. What happens now? Now we call Vanessa, then Judith, then Patrick. We build the case layer by layer until Grant has nowhere to hide. Vanessa testified next, nervous, terrified but determined. She walked through the affair timeline, the burner phone, the text between Grant and Patrick. The violence when she told Grant she was pregnant. What did Mr. Morrison say when you told him about your pregnancy? He said, take care of it. When I said I wanted to keep the baby, he grabbed my arm. hard enough to bruise, told me I was trying to trap him, just like Becca did. Did Mrs. Morrison trap Mr. Morrison? No, they tried for years. I saw the fertility clinic bills. I just wanted to believe him, that she was the problem, that I was special. I was stupid. Whitmore cross-examined, tried to paint her as a scorned mistress, a woman who turned on Grant when he would not leave his wife. It did not work. Vanessa had too much evidence, too many emails and texts and documented threats. And her bruises, photographed with time-stamped metadata, did not lie. The trial continued for days, each witness adding another layer, another piece of evidence, another nail in Grant's carefully constructed coffin. Judith Morrison took the stand on day 3. The gallery was packed. Everyone wanted to see the matriarch destroy her son. She did not disappoint. Judith walked through decades of Morrison family finances, shell companies, hidden trusts, offshore accounts, wealth that Grant claimed did not exist but absolutely did, money that should be part of the marital estate but was conveniently forgotten. "Why are you testifying against your son?" Walter asked. "Because I watched my husband destroy me using these exact tactics. I will not watch my son do the same to another woman, particularly not to a woman who lost a child while my son actively hoped for that outcome." The courtroom was silent. Even Whitmore did not touch that in cross. What could he say? How do you defend a man whose own mother testified to his cruelty? Patrick testified reluctantly, ashamed, broken. His wife left him over this, over his complicity, over his choice to help Grant instead of telling Becca the truth. He confirmed the text, the financial strategy, Grant's explicit statements about hoping for the miscarriage, multiple affairs over the years, a pattern of behavior that showed this was not one mistake. This was who Grant was, who he always had been. "Did you tell Mrs. Morrison about any of this?" "No, I know. Why not?" "Because I am a coward. Because family loyalty felt more important than doing what was right." Patrick's voice broke. "I was wrong. My wife was right to leave me. I chose the wrong side." Day 4, Grant finally took the stand. His attorneys tried to avoid it. Judge Castellano insisted. She wanted to hear from him directly, wanted to see if he would take responsibility. Show remorse. Acknowledge the harm. He did not. Walter approached like a predator, calm, controlled, deadly. "Mr. Morrison, did you hope your wife would miscarry?" "That email is taken out of context." "Yes or no?" "The situation was complicated." "Yes or no, Mr. Morrison?" Long silence. The courtroom held its breath. Grant looked at his attorneys. They could not help him, could not save him, could not make this question disappear. Finally, yes. The gallery erupted. Judge Castellano called for order. Grant stared at the table, could not take the word back, could not unsay it, could not pretend anymore. Walter continued, methodical, thorough, devastating. "When your wife was in the emergency room losing your daughter, where were you?" "I was in a meeting." "That is a lie. Where were you?" "I was with Vanessa Cole at the Four Seasons Hotel." "Yes." "While your wife was alone in a hospital losing your child." "Yes." Each yes was a nail. Each admission was a confession. Each answer was proof of something beyond divorce, beyond betrayal, proof of cruelty, calculated, systematic, intentional. Walter finished, sat down. Grant's attorneys tried damage control, tried to humanize him, make him sympathetic, paint this as mistakes rather than malice. It did not work. The evidence was overwhelming. The timeline was damning. The testimony was crushing. Grant Morrison destroyed himself with his own emails, his own texts, his own admissions. Judge Castellano took 2 weeks to deliberate, 2 weeks of waiting, wondering, hoping, fearing. 2 weeks of Becca going through the motions, working on Emma's voice, building a future beyond just this verdict. Because whatever the judge decided, Becca's life had to continue, had to mean something, had to be more than just revenge and settlement money and the satisfaction of watching Grant pay. She needed purpose, and Emma's voice gave her that, a way to turn pain into help, grief into support, loss into something that mattered. The courtroom reconvened on a Thursday afternoon. Gray skies, rain threatening, the kind of day that matched the weight of what was about to happen. Everyone was there. Grant and his attorneys, Becca and Walter. The gallery packed with press and observers and people who followed the case and needed to know how it ended. Whether justice existed. Whether powerful men could be held accountable. Whether women who lost everything could win anything back. Judith sat in the front row. Vanessa in the back. Patrick absent. His wife still would not let him attend. Some betrayals could not be forgiven. Some choices destroyed relationships beyond repair. Judge Castellano entered. Everyone stood. The ritual, the formality, the weight of law and procedure, and the fiction that justice was blind. That money did not matter. That power did not corrupt. "Please be seated," Judge Castellano said. She arranged her papers. The room was silent, waiting, everyone holding their breath. "I have reviewed all evidence and testimony in this case. I have considered arguments from both sides. I have evaluated the credibility of witnesses and the validity of documentation." Grant's face was pale. Becca's hands were folded, calm. Whatever happened, she survived. She built something from the wreckage. She mattered. Mattered. That was already a victory, Judge Castellano continued. "What I witnessed is not a marriage that ended badly. It is a marriage that was systematically destroyed through calculated cruelty." Grant's attorneys shifted, uncomfortable. They lost. They knew it. Everyone knew it. The question was, how badly? Mr. Morrison actively hoped for his wife's miscarriage while she was pregnant. He engaged in affairs that began before the pregnancy and continued during it. He was physically intimate with his mistress while his wife was in an emergency room losing their child. He asked for divorce within 72 hours of that loss. Judge Castellano looked directly at Grant. Her expression was steel. Throughout this trial, Mr. Morrison showed no remorse, no accountability, no recognition that his actions constitute profound emotional cruelty. His testimony revealed a man who views his wife's grief as inconvenience, her pregnancy as complication, her daughter's death as solution. The words landed like hammers, each sentence another blow. Grant stared at the table, could not meet the judge's eyes, could not face what he was, what everyone finally saw. The prenuptial agreement is void. The emotional cruelty demonstrated exceeds any standard contemplated by that contract. Becca's heart pounded. Walter squeezed her hand. This was it. The moment everything changed. The moment justice stopped being abstract and became real. As to division of assets, Mr. Morrison systematically hid assets before and during the marriage. The full value of the marital estate, including hidden trusts revealed by Judith Morrison's testimony, totals approximately $40 million. $40 million. The number echoed, bounced around the courtroom. Grant's attorneys looked sick. Rebecca Morrison is awarded 90% of all marital assets, $36 million. The gallery erupted. Cameras flashed. Reporters typed frantically. The largest emotional cruelty settlement in state history. A judgment that would make headlines. That would change precedent. That would tell every man like Grant Morrison that there were consequences. Judge Castellano was not finished. Mr. Morrison will retain 10%, $4 million. Additionally, Mr. Morrison is ordered to pay $200,000 in punitive damages for intentional infliction of emotional distress. Walter gripped Becca's hand harder. They won. Not just won, annihilated, destroyed, made Grant pay for every email, every moment of cruelty. But Judge Castellano had one more thing to say. "Furthermore, I am ordering that a portion of Mrs. Morrison's settlement be placed in trust. $1 million designated specifically for future fertility treatments should she choose to pursue motherhood again. Mr. Morrison's cruelty should not rob her of that possibility." That was when Becca broke. Not with rage, with something else. Relief, recognition, validation. A judge looked at the evidence and said, "You were right. What happened to you was cruel. You deserve justice. Your daughter mattered. Your grief mattered. You matter." Tears ran down her face. She did not try to stop them, did not try to maintain composure, just let herself feel. Let herself believe that maybe, possibly, the system worked. That truth mattered. That cruelty had costs that powerful men could lose. The gavel fell. Final. Decisive. The end of the marriage, the end of the trial, the end of the performance. Grant stood. His attorneys flanked him. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. The mask finally gone. Just a man who gambled and lost, who thought he could control everything, plan everything, win everything. He was wrong. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed. Microphones, cameras, questions shouted from every direction. Walter handled it, gave a brief statement. Becca stood beside him, silent, letting him speak, letting the verdict speak. Today, Judge Castellano sent a clear message. Emotional cruelty has consequences. Weaponizing grief has costs. No amount of wealth or power protects men who systematically destroy their wives. More questions, more cameras. Walter guided Becca to the car, away from the kiss, away from the circus, toward whatever came next. In the car, Becca finally spoke. Is it real? Did that actually happen? It happened. You won. Not just the money, the validation, the recognition that what Grant did was wrong, cruel, unforgivable. Will he appeal? Probably, but the evidence is overwhelming. No appellate court will overturn this. Grant Morrison destroyed himself. With his own words, his own actions, his own admissions. Becca leaned back in the seat, closed her eyes, let the reality sink in. She was rich now, $36 million. More money than she ever imagined. More money than she needed. More money than made sense. But it was not about the money. Never was. It was about being heard, being believed, being validated. About Emma's death meaning something beyond just clearing the way for Grant's convenience. The media circus lasted 3 days. Headlines everywhere. Tech CEO ordered to pay 90% in emotional cruelty case. Judge rules hoping for wife's miscarriage voids prenup. Morrison versus Morrison, when betrayal meets justice. Grant's company stock plummeted. The board demanded his resignation. He fought it, lost. The man who had everything now had $4 million and a reputation that was radioactive. Vanessa got a restraining order. He violated it, spent 2 nights in jail. Humiliation, compounding humiliation. The fall from grace was complete, public, permanent. Becca watched from a distance. Not with satisfaction exactly, just with recognition. The mask finally slipped completely. Everyone could see what she saw, who he really was beneath the polish and performance. 3 months after the judgment, Becca sat in her new apartment. Not a penthouse, something smaller, manageable. Hers, 1,200 square feet, 2 bedrooms, hardwood floors, natural light. A place that felt like home instead of a showcase. The walls were still mostly bare. She was taking her time, choosing carefully, building intentionally. This was not just an apartment. This was the foundation of a new life. One she designed, one she controlled, one that belonged to nobody but her. Claire visited, brought wine. They sat on the floor because Becca had not bought a couch yet. Old habits, sitting on floors while processing life changes. So what now? Claire asked. I do not know. That is terrifying and wonderful at the same time. You could go back to marketing. You were brilliant at it. Maybe, or maybe something completely different. I have time to figure it out. And money. Enough money that I can take my time, choose carefully, build something that matters. Emma's voice? Yes, I am hiring staff, renting office space, building a real organization. Not just an idea, a place where women can go when they lose pregnancies and marriages simultaneously. When grief and betrayal compound. When they need someone to say, you are not crazy. What happened was real. You will survive this. Claire smiled. She would be proud, Emma. If she could know, she would be proud of what you built from losing her. I hope so. I like to think so. Becca took a sip of wine, her first alcohol in over a year, since before she started trying to get pregnant. It tasted strange, bitter, like freedom and sadness mixed together. Sometimes I wonder what she would have been like. 5 years old, 10, 20. What kind of person? What kind of life? You will always wonder. That is part of it. The not knowing, the never getting to meet her. But I did meet her. For 15 weeks, she was real. Inside me, part of me, I felt her, loved her, lost her. That is meeting someone, even if the world never saw her. They sat in comfortable silence, the kind that only comes from years of friendship, from weathering storms together, from sitting on bathroom floors and courthouse benches and empty apartments while life imploded and rebuilt and transformed into something new. The next morning, Becca went to the beach, the same beach where Grant proposed 8 years ago. But this time, she was not mourning what was lost. She was not saying goodbye to the woman who said yes. She was just there, present, breathing, alive. The ocean smelled like salt and possibility. The wind was cold, spring turning to summer, new season, new chapter, new everything. A little girl ran past, maybe 4 years old, chasing a kite. Her mother followed, laughing, running, living, normal life continuing, despite the fact that other lives were ending and rebuilding and transforming. Becca watched them, felt the ghost of Emma, that phantom kick that would probably never go away completely, but it did not hurt as badly now, did not steal her breath, just reminded her, gently, sadly, that love does not require a heartbeat, that loss does not diminish worth. She could imagine a future now, maybe not motherhood. That door might be closed, might be open. She did not know yet. The fertility trust sat in her bank account, waiting, patient, ready if she was ready, okay if she was not. But other futures existed. Emma's voice, a career that mattered, friends who saw her. Maybe love again someday, maybe not. Definitely therapy, probably a dog, possibly forgiveness. Not for Grant, never for Grant, but for herself, for all the times she ignored her instincts, for all the ways she made herself smaller, for all the years she performed happiness while dying inside. She forgave herself for not knowing, not seeing, not leaving sooner, not protecting Emma, not being psychic, not being perfect. She forgave herself for being human. 6 months post-judgment, Becca received a letter, handwritten, expensive stationery. She recognized the handwriting. Judith Morrison. Dear Rebecca, I hope you are building something beautiful from the wreckage. I wanted you to know that Patrick and Gwen reconciled. He is in therapy, actually doing the work, facing what he enabled, trying to become someone worthy of his wife's forgiveness. Grant, predictably, is not. He moved to Seattle, trying to rebuild. I suspect he will repeat the pattern. Some men do. They cannot see themselves clearly, cannot accept responsibility, cannot change. I also wanted to tell you something I never said during the trial. When I had my miscarriages, nobody talked about them. We pretended they did not happen, moved on, smiled. Performed strength, your willingness to name your loss, to fight for your daughter's memory. That meant something, not just for you, for all of us who suffered in silence, who were told to get over it, to try again, to stop being dramatic. You made Emma matter. That is a gift, to her, to yourself, to every woman who lost a pregnancy and was told it was not a real loss because the baby was not born. You are going to be fine, Rebecca. More than fine. You are going to be extraordinary, because you already are. With admiration, Judith Becca read the letter 3 times, then filed it away. Validation from unexpected places, from a woman who understood, who lived her own version of this hell and survived it with less support and fewer options. She started volunteering at a fertility clinic, not as staff, just as support. Women coming out of failed IVF cycles, women facing losses, women trying to navigate hope and grief simultaneously. She did not tell them her story unless they asked, just sat with them, reminded them they were not alone, that their pain was real, that their babies mattered even if the world never saw them. One woman, mid-30s, fresh from a negative pregnancy test after her 4th IVF cycle, asked, "How do you keep going when everything keeps failing?" You do not have to keep going. You can stop. You can rest. You can choose a different path. There is no right answer. But what if I regret stopping? What if you regret continuing? Both are valid. Both are painful. You have to choose which pain you can live with. The woman nodded, started crying. Becca held her hand, did not offer platitudes, did not promise it would get better, just sat with her in the pain. Because sometimes that was enough. Sometimes presence mattered more than promises. I spent 3 years chasing motherhood. Would I do it again? I do not know. The baby I lost made me a mother even though she never lived. That grief and love coexist. I can hold both. I can honor what was lost and still move forward. That is not betrayal. That is survival. 1 year after the judgment, Becca launched Emma's Voice publicly. Nonprofit status approved. Website live. Resources available. Counseling referrals. Legal support. A safe space to grieve without performance. To rage without apology. To rebuild without pressure. The opening night Judith attended, Vanessa came, heavily pregnant, engagement ring from someone new. Someone who wanted her baby, who was excited about becoming a father, who showed up at doctor appointments and asked questions and planned for the future. Claire brought Megan. Dr. Crowley came. Even Patrick and Gwen showed up. An unlikely family formed from wreckage, bound by shared trauma and the recognition that surviving was not the same as healing, but sometimes it was enough. Becca gave a short speech. This organization exists because loss and betrayal do not cancel each other out. They compound. When you are grieving and your support system is the person who caused that grief, you are alone in a way that is hard to explain. Emma's Voice says, "You are not alone. We see you. Your loss matters, your pain is real, and you will survive this." The applause was generous, but Becca did not need it anymore, did not need validation from strangers. She knew her truth, knew her worth, knew that Emma's life, however brief, changed the world by changing her. That night, unpacking boxes in the nonprofit office, she found it. The ultrasound photo, Emma at 15 weeks. She thought she deleted all physical copies. Apparently not. She did not cry, just looked at it, remembered. That tiny profile, the hope, the joy before everything shattered. She framed it, hung it in her private office, not as a shrine, as a reminder. Life is fragile. Love is precious. Trust carefully. And when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. 2 years after the judgment, Becca ran into Grant. Grocery store? Random. Mundane. The universe had a terrible sense of timing. He looked smaller somehow. Older. The confidence gone, replaced by something that looked like regret but was probably just self-pity. He saw her, froze, panic in his eyes, wondering if she would make a scene, confront him, destroy what little dignity he had left. She did not, just nodded, kept walking. He did not deserve her rage anymore, did not deserve her attention, did not deserve anything from her. But as she loaded groceries into her car, her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost did not answer. Almost. "Mrs. Morrison, this is Cedar Reproductive Clinic. We have your trust fund designated for fertility treatments. We wanted to check if you would like to schedule a consultation." The trust, Judge Castellano ordered. $1 million for future motherhood if she wanted it. Becca sat in her car, groceries getting warm, the sun setting. Pink and gold sky, the same sky that shone the day she lost Emma. The same sky that shone during the trial, the same sky that would shine tomorrow and every day after. Did she want it? Motherhood? The grief all over again if it failed? The hope? The vulnerability? The risk? She did not have to decide today. The money would be there. The possibility would be there. Maybe she would use it. Maybe she would not. Maybe she would adopt. Maybe she would foster. Maybe she would pour all that maternal energy into Emma's Voice in women who needed support. All options were open. For the first time in years, she was not performing for anyone. Not Grant, not judges, not even herself. She was just being. And that was enough. That was more than enough. That was everything. Everything. She started the car, drove home, to her apartment with walls she was slowly filling, to her dog Luna, a rescue she adopted 6 months ago, to her life that was small and quiet and entirely her own. The sunset turned the sky impossible colors. Beautiful, fleeting, perfect because it was temporary, because nothing lasted forever. Not pain, not love, not marriages or pregnancies or carefully constructed lives. Everything changed, everything ended, everything transformed into something new. Somewhere Grant was checking his dwindling accounts and his ruined reputation. Somewhere Judith was having tea and plotting her next chess move. Somewhere Vanessa was preparing for motherhood with someone worthy. Somewhere Patrick was learning to be better. Somewhere Claire was being the friend everyone needed. And Becca was driving home, to possibility, to peace, to a future she got to choose. Not every story ends with revenge or romance or redemption. Some stories just end with a woman finding herself again. 3 years after the judgment, Becca stood in the Emma's Voice office. Morning light streaming through windows, coffee brewing, staff arriving. Another day of helping women survive what she survived. Another day of turning pain into purpose. The nonprofit grew beyond anything she imagined. 5 full-time counselors, 2 legal advocates, support groups 3 times a week, a 24-hour crisis line, partnerships with hospitals and fertility clinics, resources for women navigating pregnancy loss, divorce, the terrible intersection of both. They helped hundreds of women, maybe thousands, each one carrying her own version of grief and betrayal, each one thinking she was alone, that nobody understood, that survival was impossible. Emma's Voice said, "You are not alone, we understand. Survival is possible. Not easy, not quick, not clean, but possible." Becca hired a woman named Sarah 6 months ago, 32 years old, lost twins at 19 weeks. Husband left her 3 weeks later for someone without baggage, without trauma, without the inconvenience of grief. Sarah sat across from Becca in the small office. "I do not know how you do it. Help women like me. Does it not just reopen your own wounds?" "Every single day," Becca admitted, "but keeping wounds closed does not heal them. It just lets them fester. This way, at least the pain has purpose." "Do you ever regret it? Fighting so hard? Making it so public?" "No, I regret trusting Grant. I regret not seeing the signs sooner. I regret that Emma never got to live. But fighting back, making him pay, building this?" Becca gestured around the office. "No regrets there." Sarah nodded, processing. "My ex-husband got remarried last month. His new wife is pregnant. It hurt more than I expected." "Of course it did. He gets to move forward, build the family he wanted, while you are still stuck processing what he did. That is not fair. It is not right. But it is reality." "How do you stop being angry?" "You do not. You just learn to carry it differently. Use it as fuel instead of poison. Channel it into something that matters instead of letting it destroy you." The office door opened. A new client, young, early 20s, visibly pregnant, black eye poorly covered with makeup. That look of someone drowning who was not sure they wanted to be saved. Sarah stood. "I will take her." Becca watched Sarah guide the young woman to a conference room, watched her offer tissue and water and the thing everyone needed most. To be believed, to be heard, to be told that what happened was not their fault. This was the work. This was what Emma's life bought. Not just a settlement, not just revenge, real change, real help, real women surviving real trauma because someone else survived first and decided to build a rope for others to climb. Becca's phone buzzed. Text from Claire. "Dinner tonight? My place? I have news." News was good. News meant life continuing, evolving, surprising. Becca texted back, "I will bring wine." That evening, Claire's house felt like home. Maybe more than Becca's own apartment. This was where she lived when she had nothing. Where she rebuilt when everything was ashes. Where she learned that family was not always blood. Sometimes it was chosen, earned, built from shared trauma and stubborn love. Megan was there, 19 now, college student, studying social work. Inspired by Becca's story, by watching someone survive and build and transform pain into purpose. "The news," Claire announced, smiling, "is that I am seeing someone." Becca smiled, real smile, not performance. Tell me everything. Claire did. His name was David, divorced, 2 kids, accountant, boring in the best way, stable, kind, present, everything her ex-husband was not. I am terrified, Claire admitted. Terrified of trusting again, of being wrong again, of building something that collapses. That is normal. Trauma does not go away just because you meet someone decent. It makes you suspicious, hypervigilant, constantly waiting for the other shoe to drop. How do you know when to trust again? I do not know. I never got there. But I think it is when being alone feels lonelier than risking being hurt again. When the possibility of connection outweighs the certainty of safety. They ate dinner, drank wine, talked about everything and nothing, normal life continuing. Healing happening quietly, not dramatically, just slowly, one day at a time, one choice at a time, one risk at a time. On the drive home, Becca's phone rang. The fertility clinic again. They called every 6 months, checking in, reminding her the option existed. This time she answered. Hello. Mrs. Morrison, this is Dr. Patel from Cedar Reproductive Clinic. I wanted to check in about your trust fund. We have several options available if you are interested in pursuing the fertility treatments. Becca pulled over, could not drive and have this conversation simultaneously. What are the options? Dr. Patel walked through possibilities. IVF with her own eggs, donor eggs, surrogacy, adoption support. The trust was flexible, designed to support whatever path to motherhood she chose. What would you recommend? Becca asked. That depends entirely on what you want, what you can handle emotionally, what risks you are willing to take. I am 37. If I am going to do this, I need to decide soon. Not necessarily. Donor eggs extend the timeline significantly. But yes, if you want to use your own eggs, sooner is better than later. Becca sat in her car, engine running, heater on. The night was cold, winter coming, always winter, always the cold, always the question of whether to try again or let go. Can I think about it? Of course. Take all the time you need. The trust is not going anywhere. But Becca was going somewhere. Time was going somewhere. The possibility of biological motherhood was going somewhere. If she waited too long, the decision would be made for her. By age, by biology, by the universe deciding she missed her window. She drove home, sat in her apartment. Luna curled up beside her on the couch she finally bought. A dog, not a baby, but something that needed her, something that loved her, something that made her life feel less empty. Was that enough? Was Emma's voice enough? Was building a life of purpose enough? Or did she need to try again? Risk the pain again? Open herself up to the possibility of another loss? She did not know. That was the truth, the hard truth. She did not know if she wanted to be a mother badly enough to risk being destroyed again. The next day, she called Dr. Crowley. Emergency session. She needed to talk this through with someone who understood, who knew her history, who would not judge either choice. I do not know what I want, Becca said, sitting in the familiar therapist's office, the place where she cried and raged and slowly rebuilt over the past 3 years. Part of me wants to try, wants to be a mother, wants to prove that Grant did not take that from me. But another part is terrified, terrified of failing again, of losing again, of grief and miscarriages and broken dreams. Both feelings are valid, Dr. Crowley said. You do not have to choose right now. You can sit with the uncertainty, explore what each choice would mean, what each path requires from you. But I am 37. My window is closing. Your window for biological children, yes, but motherhood has many paths. Adoption, fostering, step-parenting if you meet someone with kids, mentoring through Emma's voice. You are already maternal, already nurturing. The question is whether you need biological motherhood specifically or if other forms would fulfill that need. Becca sat with that, let it sink in. She was already mothering. Every woman who walked through Emma's voice doors, every Sarah she hired, every Megan she inspired, she was nurturing, supporting, helping people grow. Was that enough? I think I am scared, Becca admitted. Scared that if I try and fail, I will break completely. Scared that I am not strong enough to survive another loss. You survived what should have destroyed you. You are stronger than you think. But strength does not mean you have to keep testing yourself. You can choose peace over proving something. You can choose safety over possibility. Neither choice is wrong. Becca left the session without answers, just more clarity about the questions. Which was something, which was progress, which was better than avoiding the decision entirely. 1 month later, Becca made her choice. She called a fertility clinic, scheduled a consultation. Not for IVF, for something else. She decided to foster, emergency foster care for infants, babies born to mothers in crisis, babies who needed temporary homes while family situations resolved. Short-term placements, days or weeks, not adoption, not permanent, just safe harbor during storms. It was not what she planned, not the motherhood she imagined, but it was motherhood that mattered. That helped real babies, that used her maternal instinct without requiring her to risk pregnancy again. The certification process took 6 months. Background checks, home studies, training, learning about trauma and attachment and how to care for babies while holding lightly, while preparing to let go. Her first placement arrived on a Tuesday evening. 3-day-old girl, mother in rehab, father unknown, extended family searching for placement. Baby needed somewhere safe for 30 days while paperwork processed. Becca held the tiny infant, felt the weight, the warmth, the need. This baby was not Emma, would never be Emma, but she was real, alive, here, needing someone to see her, love her, keep her safe. For 30 days, Becca was a mother. 2 a.m. feedings, diaper changes, soothing cries, singing lullabies. All the things she never got to do with Emma. All the mundane, beautiful, exhausting parts of caring for a tiny human. When the baby's grandmother came to pick her up, Becca cried. Not because she wanted to keep her. She knew from the beginning this was temporary, but because it hurt. Because letting go always hurts. Because love is always a risk and loss is always possible. But she signed up for another placement. And another. Babies who needed someone for days or weeks. Who needed to be held and fed and kept safe while the world around them burned and rebuilt. This was her motherhood. Not what she planned, not what she dreamed, but real. Important. Enough. 5 years after the judgment, Emma's Voice was a model program. Other cities wanted to replicate it. Becca traveled to conferences, gave talks, helped launch satellite offices. The nonprofit she built from grief was changing lives, saving lives. Making Emma's death means something beyond just tragedy. Grant was a footnote, a cautionary tale. The man who lost everything because he treated people as disposable. His career never recovered. His reputation never healed. He moved from city to city, job to job, relationship to relationship, repeating patterns, never learning, never changing. Becca heard about him occasionally, through mutual acquaintances, through internet searches she should not do, but sometimes did. He was not happy, not successful, not thriving, just existing, just surviving, just paying consequences that never ended. She did not feel satisfaction, just recognition. Some people do not change. Some people cannot see themselves clearly enough to become better. Some people are tragic not because of what happens to them, but because of what they do to everyone around them. Vanessa had her baby, a girl, named her Emma, asked Becca permission first. Becca said yes, said it was an honor, said Emma's name should be spoken, should be carried forward, should remind the world that lives matter even when they end too soon. Judith died peacefully at 75. Heart attack in her sleep. Becca went to the funeral, sat in the back, listened to people praise her philanthropy, her grace, her strength. Nobody mentioned the marriages, the miscarriages, the decades of pain hidden beneath perfect makeup and designer clothes. But Becca knew, carried Judith's truth, the recognition that survival was not always visible, that strength looked like endurance, that some women held broken hearts together with nothing but stubbornness and the refusal to let bad men win. Patrick and Gwen had another baby. Boy, healthy. Patrick was different now. Present, engaged, a father who showed up, who learned from his mistakes, who became worthy of his second chance. Claire married David, small ceremony, just family and close friends. Becca was maid of honor. gave a toast about second chances and chosen family and the courage it takes to risk being hurt again. And Becca kept fostering, kept running Emma's voice, kept building a life that was small and quiet and entirely her own. She dated occasionally, nothing serious, nothing that required her to open up completely, to risk being vulnerable, to trust someone with the broken pieces of her heart. Maybe someday, maybe not. She was okay either way. Learned that happiness was not about romance or motherhood or any single thing. It was about purpose, connection, meaning, impact, building something that mattered from the ruins of what was lost. On Emma's birthday, the day she was born sleeping, the day everything changed, Becca visited the cemetery. A small headstone, just her name and dates. 15 weeks. Too brief, too soon, too much potential lost. She brought flowers, sat on the grass, talked to a daughter who never heard her voice, told her about Emma's voice, about the babies that she fostered, about the women she helped, about building a life that honored her memory by refusing to let her death be meaningless. I did it, baby girl, Becca said. I survived. I built something beautiful from losing you. I turned the worst thing into something good, not because it heals the pain, but because it makes the pain matter. The wind rustled through trees. Birds sang, life continuing, always continuing. Death was not the end of impact, was not the end of love, was not the end of anything except breath. Emma lived forever in the nonprofit bearing her name, in the women who survived because someone else did first, in the babies Becca fostered, in the choice to build instead of break, to create instead of destroy, to love instead of hate. The worst betrayal was not the affair or the cruelty. It was forgetting who she was before Grant, letting him define her, letting his version of her become the truth. The greatest victory was not that he paid, not the settlement, not the judgment, not the consequences. The greatest victory was that she remembered, she reclaimed, she rebuilt. She became someone who survived what should have destroyed her, who built something beautiful from broken pieces, who loved without a heartbeat, who mothered without giving birth, who thrived without revenge. That was enough. That was everything. As Becca drove home from the cemetery, her phone rang. Another placement, 3-week-old boy, parents in crisis, needed emergency foster for 60 days. She said yes, always said yes, because babies needed someone, because she had love to give, because Emma's death taught her that life is fragile and precious and every moment matters. She went home, prepared the nursery, the one she kept ready for placements. Buttercup yellow walls, white crib, rocking chair by the window. The room Emma never used became the room that saved other babies. That gave them safe harbor, that loved them enough to let them go. This was her life, not the one she planned, the one she built from ruins, from rage, from the stubborn refusal to let bad men win. And it was enough. It was beautiful. It was hers. Emma existed. The grief was real. The marriage ended. The rage transformed. And Becca survived. More than survived. She built something new. Something that mattered. Something that would outlast the pain. Something that made Emma's brief life change the world by changing her. Sometimes that is enough. Sometimes that is everything. Not every story ends with happily ever after. Some stories end with a woman standing in the wreckage, choosing to build instead of burn, choosing life instead of bitterness, choosing hope instead of hate, choosing every single day to matter, to fight, to survive, to thrive, to be. That was Becca's story. That was Emma's legacy. That was the truth that emerged from betrayal and loss in the darkest moments of the human experience. You can be destroyed and not defeated. You can lose everything and still win. You can grieve forever and still build a beautiful life. You just have to choose every single day to keep going, to keep fighting, to keep mattering. And Becca chose again and again and again. That was her victory, her justice, her peace, and it was enough. Thank you for staying with me through this entire journey, through the pain, the betrayal, the courtroom battles, and finally, the rebuilding. If Rebecca's story resonated with you, if you felt her pain or celebrated her victory, please hit that like button. It helps more people find this story, More women who need to hear that survival is possible, that fighting back works, that justice sometimes wins. Leave a comment below. Tell me what you thought. What surprised you? What made you angry? What gave you hope? I read every single comment. Your stories matter. Your experiences matter. Share this video with someone who needs to hear it, someone going through their own betrayal, someone who lost hope, someone who thinks powerful men always win. Show them Rebecca's story. Show them that change is possible. And if you want more stories like this, stories about real people fighting real battles and winning against impossible odds, subscribe to this channel, hit that notification bell, because I share these stories every week. Stories that matter, stories that inspire, stories that remind us we are stronger than we think. Rebecca turned her worst moment into something beautiful. She built Emma's voice from the ashes of her loss. She fostered babies who needed love. She helped thousands of women survive what almost destroyed her. What will you build from your pain? What will you create from your struggles? How will you turn your worst chapter into your greatest strength? Think about it, then go do it. Until next time, remember, you are not alone. Your pain is real. Your story matters. And you are so much stronger than you know. Take care of yourselves and each other.